the right place. That's fine.
All right,
Just making sure.
and we are live. So, hello everyone. This is FilibusterFox, and I'm going to be joined today by Mystriopolis for some game
Hello.
analysis night.
Hello. Wait, is this your first game analysis night, Foxy?
It is not.
Oh,
Now,
good.
is this yours?
No, it's not. It's okay. I've done game analysis before.
All right, so the game we're going to start spectating first, Mist, is going to be Azaraki and Saki, their game. We're going to follow them through their adventures in 5v5 ranks for the night. And we're, of course, going to commentate and try not to be too mean. Let me go ahead and minimize my Skype there so not everyone gets to stare at that. Now, you'll have to forgive me, chat, as I don't have quite everything fully prepared for overlays and backgrounds and stuff. I've got a spectator overlay going. I'm good to go. But for now, you get to see some of my desktop background until we go into the game. They are currently in Champion Select, and as soon as they're through that, we'll go ahead and get views on that. For those of you who are not familiar with Game Analysis Night, this is where both casters involved take color commentary roles, and there will be no play-by-play casting. It's all about analysis of the game as it goes, talking about what they're building, how they're playing, what they need to do better, and things like that.
In a way, it's to help. In most senses, is to help us as well as to help you guys to basically understand the game more, and to understand maybe a champion you're trying to learn to play, or just generally just trying to learn the game a bit more. It also helps us because we're always learning as casters ourselves. So it helps us to help you.
And it also helps us practice helping each other as we take over after each other's sentences and finding good places to stop and let the other guy talk.
Excellent day. So we're gonna get almost into this game. We're just waiting for the final, I guess the cues to find for them to finally get into a team select, so we can start watching their grand. What is it? Adventure you were calling it?
Turn mist up. Okay, turning mist up.
Turning me up. Excellent.
Okay, you're as loud as I can turn you up. You may have to turn up your own volume just a bit there.
I will try. I cannot. I have had issues with this microphone before where I don't know if I can actually physically turn myself up any higher.
Okay, well then I can turn myself down just a tad here. Let's see.
So you'll have to bear with me while I figure out how I do that.
54.
Hey, Mist, go into your settings, your audio settings, and you can turn yourself up in your mic settings.
I'm not doing it. I'm up to 100, according to this.
All right, how is
that microphone?
We'll both talk next to each other here. How is the link up now? Is it still too high on me, or do I need to adjust further? Or not adjust further in that case. Talk a little, Mist.
Hello.
How's that mix? A little more, Mist. have a conversation with me so they can tell the.
Okay, fair enough. How you doing, FilibusterFox? I'm Mystriopolis, and I'm.
Okay. And Ruby, let's do this. Okay. Talk again. Mist. Hello. Mist. Oh, did I accidentally?
Oh, look, they're already in the game. They're already 1 minute in. We should totally spectate the
All
game.
right.
We should totally spectate the game in the game right now.
Spectating
Is
now.
that good?
Oh wow. Okay.
Hmm? No.
That's good. Chat. How's the volume on Mist now? Relatively.
For the love of God, please tell me I'm loud enough.
Is it good? Okay. Anyways, while we're waiting on chat to respond to whether or not Mist's volume level is fine, let's see. Let's just turn that all the way up. So I'll just turn myself down a tad. Hopefully, Steam go away. All right, so our guys are going to be on the purple team. That's the Towerdive TV ranked 5 staff team there, as Kurumakai playing Needly with Flash and Exhaust. Cloud Titan playing Nasus with Ghost and Smite. Saki Mans playing Caitlyn with Flash and Barrier. Azaraki Dragon playing Lux for a change with Flash and Barrier. And King Kano playing Shen with Teleport and Ignite.
Whereas for the blue team, we've got Chumpy Cat playing Leona, having Flash and Exhaust under her belt, followed by, and she's going to be laning up with Tristana with an Ignite and a Flash. Very definite, strong bot lane comp right there. However, we have got Elrond playing the Rise, also having his Ignite and Flash. Whereas in the top lane, we've got our Riven being played by Virax. He is going to be utilizing the Summoner spells Teleport and Flash. And finally, we've got Long Range. He's going to be the jungler for the enemy team against our Towerdive staff, and he'll be having his Smite and Flash, and he'll be playing the Xin Zhao.
Well, Mist, what do you think about the matchup between the two junglers in this case? We've got Xin Zhao for the blue team in the jungle, and we've got Nisus for the purple team, or the red team, as it may be.
Well, Xin Zhao is one of those junglers that you see him very commonly. He's one of the very more common junglers. The real place you see him is in the top lane. However, he has very strong ganks. He can move about from lane to lane relatively quickly, and he has a strong jungle clear. Nasus is one of those champions that's been very interesting in the jungle. He's one of those champs that you need to farm up early to be able to get off a lot of his utility, but I've heard that his ganks can be quite strong because of that wither of his wither being able to slow the enemy down when a good gank is needed and opportune moments are created for him to be able to do so. So in general, he's okay at jungling. We're just gonna have to see how the players handle the situation as well as they do. But I'm actually, for team comp wise, rooting for the Tower Dive staff. They just seem to have a more cleaner team comp compared to their enemy team.
All right, I have crashed, so I will be getting back into the game momentarily here. So please continue with your analysis. Down in the bot lane, we'll have a matchup of whom against whom?
It is Leona and Tristana on the blue team, which is Phil's Reading versus Towerdive TV staff's Sokimans and I believe Kira Makai's Nidalee. And I will say right now it is Safari Caitlyn and Pharaoh Nidalee. So it is a full-skinned team comp for the Towerdive TV staff. They're fully skin intimidating the other team. I will say that in every respect to our Towerdive staff.
Well, with this matchup with Tristana Leona, that's a very, very dangerous level 2 fight right there. As soon as Leona gets Zenith Blade to go with her stun, and as soon as Tristana has her jump and her explosive shot to go right in, Rocket Jump does a lot of damage early on, especially if this Tristana starts with just a little AP and masteries or runes. You don't want to dedicate to AP when you go Tristana, but a little bit early can get you a bunch of damage early on. I'm very excited to see if she has any, but that level 2 engage from them could spell deathly trouble for Caitlyn Nidalee in this early matchup. After that initial fight, I expect Caitlyn to come more into her own in levels roughly 4 to 8 or so, where Caitlyn will have the advantage of that range and the poke, and that early burst from Tristana and Leona, unless they get the early advantage and take it, will pare down a little bit, and that Nidalee poke, along with Caitlyn's poke, is going to hurt them significantly and hopefully prevent them from pressuring that bot lane. We may end up seeing it once again turn back to Tristana in the late game when her range becomes more and more of an advantage. What do you think about that?
I think it's more... It's as you said, it's more basically who comes down to the initiation first. I think if Soki and Kiro keep their wits about them and stay out of the fight early on, Tristana and Leona won't really get the kills early on. So they need to stay sort of safe, and they still need to stay back a little bit until they're fully prepared for a proper engagement. So in order, if they do that, I think they should have no trouble taking out this Leona and this Tristana. However, as you said, Leona and Tristana, they do have quite a strong team comp with as sort of both of them have a very good utilization with each other, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Tristana can use a lot of Leona's passives and stuns to be able to pick up a lot of damage based on her explosive shot and her jump, as you said. However, I will mention that she does not seem to be running any AP on this Tristana. So, Flay Zero seems to be going pretty much all out AD. He started with a longsword and 2 pots, whereas our very own Sokimans seems to have gone for the same sort of thing, the longsword and 2 pots. This is the sort of thing that's been coming commonly among AD carries now, I will say, just because they want to try and rush that Vampiric Scepter as quick as possible.
One very interesting thing with these supports building up is that Leona started with cloth armor and wards, and Needly started with boots and wards, neither of which is a fairly standard start for supports these days. You're generally going to see the supports build towards that Philosopher's Stone early in most every case. They'll get either a Rejuvenation Bead or the Mana Pendant. They'll get a purple ward and 2 green wards and 2 potions, or some variation of that. And seeing this completely Rejuvenation Beadless, or well, the Philosopher's Stone-less build is kind of surprising early, and it reduces the number of wards they're going to have in play early in bot.
Absolutely. And right now what we're seeing is both teams pretty much taking the same sort of style of taking their jungles. They're both going for wolves first, and they're both going for their blues first. Now, this is a good idea for a Nasus because he uses a lot of cooldowns, and he utilizes a lot of his mana for his spells, especially for spells such as Wither and his Soulfire ability, which I think I got right. No, sorry, Spirit Fire ability, not Soulfire. Xin Zhao can use his blue, but he has also been known to take his red first as well, as he's not entirely relying on the blue buff, but it is also quite nice to have.
I see either jungler being very dangerous in any attempt they come to gank, with between Nasus's Wither, which is an incredibly powerful slow and debuff in any sort of gank situation, can really turn any fight in the lane. But Xin Zhao, as opposed to debuffing so much and being kind of a support-style gank, goes right in, knocks him up, and just beats the crud out of the opponent's target. And either of the ganks can come really strong. It's just depend who's going to get the right positioning and who's going to get the earlier ganks to get ahead in this match.
I'm going to quickly rotate us to the mid lane right at now, because I'm actually liking the advantage that Azaraki seems to be pressing on the Ryze right now. He's been doing a nice amount of combos on this Ryze, being able to catch him out with that binding, which is incredibly strong move. And here we go, there's the first blood onto the Riven. Nice gank there by the Nasus, again utilizing that Wither very perfectly, and especially Wither with Shen's Taunt is just a very awesome combination between the two there.
Yeah, that early advantage for Shen is going to help him so much. Riven's a very powerful top opponent to go against for just about anyone. It's very difficult to deal with. But Shen getting ahead a little bit early is going to give him more of that global presence in the mid to late game. One ganking from that top lane is going to be a huge game changer.
Well, as you can see right now, he's already seems to be poking down that Riven, and that's pretty much what basically the only way to beat Riven is. You just got to basically bully her as much as you can. Yes, she's very strong, but if you can basically out-bully her, you probably will win the lane. There are a few people that can out-bully her. Shen is probably one of them, with a little bit of help with a gank from the jungler. And that's not too bad whatsoever. And ooh, very nicely played there by Sokimans, who got a double kill with just one Q shot.
Yeah, that was a brilliant use of the Piltover Peacemaker, hitting both of them. Almost a little bit lucky there that the Leona had dodged into it to get away from Needly. Just both of them eating that Peacemaker, just very nicely done for that Caitlyn. That's going to make bottom lane get further and further ahead here and destroy that early advantage for Leona and Tristana.
Yes, that's probably the best play. However, Azaraki getting taken down by that Ryze there, but getting him very low. Xin Zhao then moving away from the fight, and Nasus trying to pick up that kill. He got a little bit too greedy. He did miss that Q and used the Q to pick up a creep instead rather than hitting it onto the Ryze. I believe he did hit the Ryze. He would have managed to be able to kill him, sadly. He did hit a creep instead, and that is not going to be good for him, as he does get picked up by that Xin Zhao.
Having a look at the items that mid lane is building, already Ryze has that Catalyst building into the Rod of Ages, of course a very core item on any sort of Ryze build. That tankiness from the health and mana that he gets is just so very strong and almost a required item if you're ever playing Ryze, whereas Lux is going for a very sustained build. Lots of potions, the Mana Pendant, and boots to keep that mobility charm, or sorry, the mobility from the boots, and the Fairy Charm to keep her in this lane poking until she can build up those later items.
I think Ryze is generally, with this Catalyst he's got, is either going to probably go with a Banshee's Veil or I believe the most likely scenario, is he's probably going to go with a Roa. And Roa's really strong on Rise, just because he has that extra tankiness from that health that he gets, but more tankiness as well from that amount of mana he also gets. And here we go. There's a nice, interesting gank proportion coming from the Xin Zhao there. Lux is going to retreat up northward. I'm not really doing play-by-play style here. I'm trying not to, at least. But, oh dear, that's not going to be good. Azaraki may get away with that one.
These junglers
that was... Oh!
Shen very helping his team out there, as the junglers are making the difference in the mid lane. Just keeping the presence, preventing Rise and Lux from having a fair fight there can work into favor of either team depending on how the dice falls. Both of those mid laners have the potential to seriously handicap each other if left alone, and one of them gets the upper hand. But with the junglers and now the top lane in the mix, it's going to really create an unpredictable game in the mid lane. Down bot, they're mostly being left alone by the junglers, expecting lots of ward coverage and traps. But these fights between these two lanes are going to be really determined by the supports down there.
I'll say one thing this is twice that Azaraki has been caught out, so I'm going to quickly look at the ward coverage coming from the lane. The only ward that Azaraki seems to have is in that bush down at the bottom lane. He can see the Xin Zhao that's basically there. He knows he's there. He does start putting down that ball and binding. That ward is giving coverage there. However, he has no coverage of this top ward. He does not know if Xin Zhao will gank him from the top there. However, this doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, as Xin Zhao has been doing most of his ganks from that bottom jungle. So if maybe Xin Zhao turns his tables and starts ganking from the top, he may find himself a little bit more successful. But until he knows that there's a ward or not a ward there, he's not really going to be doing too much, I think.
That's an excellent ward placement for the mid lane, though, on that bottom bush. All you have to do is play towards the bottom half, and you have plenty of time to react to anyone coming in from the top, especially someone like Lux with plenty of peel for herself, with the snare and the slow from her abilities will easily prevent any sort of gank coming from the top unless she is snared by Rise, and of course Xin Zhao can come right in after that snare wears off, but it gives a lot more reaction time to put the bushes in the south being the warded one. As for the bottom lane putting out wards, you see the red team is getting good ward coverage now. Blue team had just gone B, so they should be able to start putting out wards. But red has the excellent position of the tri-bush and the dragon warded up. Absolutely essential. They've also got both bushes in the bottom lane warded, which provide an excellent situation for Shen to make a teleport gank down to the bot lane and get more of the global presence there.
I also want to point out that all the wards in the bot lane, except for one, are all pink wards. So they are very much prepared to counter ward if they need to. They can already see that Leona put that ward in that tri-bush. They know the ward's going to be there. However, they've got a pink ward on Dragon. They've got 2 pink wards in both of the bushes. They'll know if if a ward is going to go down in one of these bushes, and they'll take it out immediately, which enforces the fact that they can get a teleport gank from that Shen later in the laning phase, which is going to be incredibly strong for them.
We're seeing the disadvantage of trying to run a Needly support against a bursty CC bot lane here, as she was very quickly taken out just earlier. Between Leona and Tristana, with the crowd control and the amount of damage Tristana puts out in this early game, just the squishiness that Needly is early on without having tankiness built up. She's only got the Philosopher's Stone and boots. She doesn't have the defense to withstand the kind of firepower they're throwing that way. It's going to be very difficult unless she gets a little bit more tankiness built up, because this blue team bot lane is going to continue to press their dominance down here until the red team can survive it.
Absolutely. And right now we can already see that Tristana and Caitlyn are already taking very similar sort of builds. In fact, very similar into the fact of Tristana has that Vampiric Scepter and double Dorans, and so does Caitlyn. We're already seeing a very big fight going down right now. Very nice move there by the Shen coming in at the time he was given. Nice flash there by the Leona to get away from that fight. That's the disengage. But here comes Ribbon, and Ribbon's just gonna use a nice array of combinations of moves to basically take out a lot of that competition. And this just just the whole aspect of that fight seemed to have gone pretty much into the purple team's favor. There was a few moments where it looked like it was slipping into the blues, but the red team seemed to have that pretty much controlled throughout the entirety. And we can already see Kano wanting for this Riven kill, and there he is. Nice taunt there, straight into a Q. Very nicely done.
That definitely turned that team fight in the favor of the red team. It was very close before then, but picking up that extra kill made it so much more extremely in favor of the red team there. It was an interesting engage in any part from both teams, actually. They both were just kind of randomly fighting around that cliff face, each team trying to get around to the squishier sides of the others, each initiator trying to initiate on the squishy, and it was just moving around in this odd, flashy circle before anyone could really have a good engage. There was no proper organization to that team fight. It was just an extended chase scene. Picking up an early dragon, this red team is going to solidify their goal lead. Now about 4,000 gold ahead. With only a 2-kill lead here. It's going to be troublesome for the blue team to come back from this.
Absolutely, and it's a very nice play there by the purple team, catching out that Xin Zhao where he was, and now catching out the Rise as well. Very nice way they came up as well. They came straight up through that river and basically just started clearing. They knew the Xin Zhao was somewhere around there. As soon as they caught him out, they could catch out the Rise and get themselves a double kill.
That was a beautiful combination of Final Spark and Ace in the Hole by Lux and Caitlyn in that mid-kill on Rise. It was just fantastic to watch. So much damage when he thought he had gotten away, but he could not escape the extremely long-range snipe ult.
And that's one of the things I really like about the purple team. The purple team have a lot of burst damage potential on their team. They got the Q. If Nasus get his Q farmed up, that's already a heck of damage that's going to be hit onto a single target at any one point. Nidalee Spears, we already know that a full-range Nidalee Spear can do quite a lot of damage if aimed correctly, and if it hits them. Caitlyn, already know that Caitlyn is one of those very stronger AD carries, has that built over Peacemaker, has that snipe that she has, sorry, I can't even remember that, Ace in the Hole, sorry. Has that Ace in the Hole to basically pick up any kill that she wants. And then you have Shen. Shen's really not really going with the burst team comp sort of thing, but he's there as generally as a support to help people pick up and lock down any kills that they need to. So it's a very nice team comp because a lot of them had the burst damage and then also have the support to be able to get that burst damage onto a target immediately.
Well, for those curious, Nasus' Siphoning Strike is now up to about 200 damage, including base damage and AD, but he hasn't been leveling it. Oh, a very nice way of giving Lux the blue buff there, using Final Spark to pick it up. It's fairly amusing. If you don't want to leave lane, may as well use that low cooldown ult.
It is an incredibly low cooldown as well. I've known Lux Final Sparks to be, if in a correct sort of build for Lux, I have known Final Spark to be on a cooldown of 30 seconds with a blue buff, of course, being on yourself. 30 seconds every cooldown is just, it's really one of those abilities that you just don't want to be in touch with. And oh dear, Azaraki getting himself a little bit sandwiched there. Couldn't really get out of the fight. He went really the wrong way, straight into a Rise, and he just got himself sandwiched up there. Not the really correct way he should have went. He should have went upward out of the fight after he retreated back into that bush.
That was good map awareness and team focus by the blue team in that fight, catching Caitlyn out of position and then working down Nasus and Leona, preventing them from really doing any damage. Lux got there a little too late and then was caught between the three, already killing the red team's defense there. And then Rise just came up right behind to just cinch that kill very easily on Lux, who got just a little too late there. Very good teamwork from that Rise, showing up at just the right time. Excellent work on the blue team in that fight.
Excellent work indeed. We can already see the benefits of that team fight coming into fruition as we see Rise picking up his Rod of the Ages finally. So that's going to provide a lot of
I'm sorry. I had to come in for this fruition. You mean fruition, sweetie?
Fruition?
No! Fruition!
You're not even supposed to be here. Go away.
I'm so sorry, but I heard it and I couldn't stop laughing.
Does Mist already have a meme? Because I think Fruitation is a pretty good one.
Fruitation is gonna be the new one. It's fruition, honey.
I think I'm
God.
Fruitation. Wow.
Get back into it, I'm sorry.
Well, in all honesty, Fruitation does seem like a very appropriate term for the situation here. Shen doing a very nice job of escaping an attempted gank from Xin Zhao in the top lane.
Oh dear. Anyways, moving back on, we can already see that going back into the whole build aspect I was seeing, that Rod of the Ages is going to provide a lot of utility to that Rise right now. As it progresses, it builds up as the game progresses. I believe it grants 20 plus health, 20 mana, and 2 ability power per stack, and it gives a single stack per minute. So as the game progresses further on, he's going to get more and more stacks, and he's going to get more and more tanky and a bit more damage under his belt, because he's just getting not only ability power, but also mana. And if you know Rise as well, he likes having mana as well as ability power, because it just improves his kit a lot more and makes him a lot more of a very violent foe to play against.
We're seeing some major things changing in this game's focus as we're getting about to the 20-minute mark. Blue team started behind pretty well there after that last team fight. Of course, Tristana getting caught there is not helping their situation right now, but their use of wards to get great map vision is really bringing them back in this game. They're only 2k gold behind now, closing of where they were. And they're continuing to come further and further back into this match due to the good map control, due to the good coordination and working together as a team really well. Red is giving up a little bit of the map advantage here. They've stopped placing out those pink wards. We saw tons of pink wards coming out in the bot lane early, but now they're nowhere. There are no more pink wards on the map. And that is an opportunity that they have to improve their situation here, is to start pink warding and getting rid of this map vision advantage for the blue team.
Blue team seem to have a lot more ward. I don't know really what ward advantage the blue team has. The blue team seems to have both top and bottom bushes warded, basically more or less in the mid lane, and then you got the top river warded by that Riven at the top there, and then the tri-bush at bottom. Whereas ward coverage for the red team, I have to disagree with you. They have got a decent amount of ward coverage so far. They've got their bottom jungle covered in that like small tri pathway there that's going to basically provide them with vision from pretty much 3 different directions, which is pretty nice, something you want to have. They did have a ward on Dragon, which is going to provide coverage of the Dragon when it pops up, which it's just now has finally done. They have ward coverage, which is pretty much almost going to go now, but they did have ward coverage in the bottom jungle of the opponent's jungle as well. And they've got a nice pink ward basically now being countering any ward that is placed in the top jungle there. So they've got it. They have had a decent, at least decent-ish ward coverage toward this game, but is mainly focused towards the rivers, around near the rivers, I think.
Having a look at the 280 carries at this point, they're still fairly similar in the build. Tristana's already finished the Bloodthirster and a Zeal, whereas it looks like Caitlyn's pushing a little more towards an early, perhaps Infinity Edge. We'll see what develops there if she wants to finish that or her Bloodthirster first. But
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to go for the Infinity Edge first. Normally people stop at the Vampiric Scepter because it's already providing enough as an item as it is. It's already giving you that early game damage, and it's already giving you that little bit of lifesteal. You don't really need to upgrade that into the Bloodthirster just yet. So buying your Infinity Edge first before your Bloodthirster isn't a bad thing.
That's absolutely correct.
It already...
Especially on a champion like Caitlyn, who's got that big passive that will come up with a headshot. That is so very well assisted by that Infinity Edge in the mid-game.
Absolutely, and it comes down to the fact that the choices they're making at the moment is not bad at all. We can already see the, very nice combination there by the Caitlyn and the Lux yet again, positioning their ultimates pretty much in coordination with each other to try and pick up that Xin Zhao kill. Sadly, Xin Zhao did get away, but it was very nicely coordinated ultimates there, and as you can see, red team finding themselves in a very nice situation of being able to pick up 2 kills, and that's going to really help them boost them back up into this game, I think.
Tristana made the big mistake of getting a little too greedy there. She saw the low health and went for the blood, and that led her 2v1 in a situation, and then Shen ulted in onto Nessus to prevent him from dying and also get in on that fight. The defile going down from Nasus onto Tristana there just prevented any sort of action from her and ended up getting her killed by being aggressive instead of backing off at the rest of their team and disengaging a poor initiated fight.
Very nice distraction there by Azaraki and Sokimans, keeping Xin Zhao and Rise at bay for as long as they could. Azaraki did take a bit of damage, but he didn't actually die, so it was very nicely played by them, while Kiro and Cloud did grab the dragon. Nicely done there by the red team.
And we see Rise has actually finished his Rod of Ages now, and he's starting to build towards that Archangel Staff. All the more mana, all the more ability power and tankiness he can get, that's exactly what you want on Rise. He just scales very, very well with mana, health, and ability power. That's pretty much the only things you need to build on him. Conversely, Lux, having built up the Spell Pen, the Magic Resist, and the Mana Regen, and a lot less flat ability power than Rise has built, but going for a more versatile defensive and sustained build.
I just want to say right now that the cooldown on Final Spark right now, with the items Azaraki has provided himself, is now a 49.4 second cooldown. So I'm interested to see if he's going to buy any more cooldown reduction to try and bring that cooldown a bit more lower. Because I think if he does, it's going to really help him utilize team fights a lot more, especially when he gets it down to as low as like a 30-second cooldown. Because it means he can be popping constantly lasers, and it's going to help in team fights tremendously. If the team fight lasts as long, he's going to be popping at least 2 lasers a fight, and that's going to really help the team fights.
One thing that's going to be a dominating game changer in this match is the fact that Shen up top is 4-0-5 now. Riven only 1-2. Riven's 30 far behind as well, not able to farm up when Shen has been going and getting fights across the rest of the map with his global presence. And this is going to get Shen increasingly tankier and tankier, and he's going to be an unstoppable force here in just a few minutes as he continues to build up his core items.
Speaking of core items, we're going to start looking into some of them. We can already see Tristana finish that Bloodthirster now, and has already built herself a Zeal, got her Berserker Greaves, and has got that Cloak of Agility, as well as a couple of double Doran's Blades. She's already got quite a lot of lifesteal under her belt, as well as the attack speed, and as well as quite a little bit of damage at the moment. Not much to be able to do much, but enough to be able to do the damage that she is currently doing. I'd like to see her start to build that Blade of the Ruined King, I think, to be able to utilize her long-range attack speed as well as her generally passive long-range as well. This is also going to be a decent-ish counter to Nasus as well, who generally you find building quite a little bit of health on him as a utility to keep himself alive and queuing everyone he can.
And the Ignite does finish off the Nasus despite his large health pool. Earlier, we saw them both dive between those mid towers to pick up a kill on Caitlyn, and I was very impressed by Leona's decision-making there. Instead of going back towards the base, the natural decision, you want to run back to your towers, she instead flashed the counterintuitive direction towards that northern jungle to get out of a bad situation, and that decision almost let her get out alive. Unfortunately, Ningli saw her passing the well-warded coverage on that northern half of the map, between the route to Baron from the blue base and that river there, saw where Leona was going, and was able to catch her with the spear for the kill. But Leona's choice of direction when she got out is absolutely fantastic and a laudable move.
That Leona at the moment is 0-6-6 at the moment. She does have a Sightstone under her belt, as well as a Kindle Gem, a Philosopher's Stone, and an Emblem of Valor. So she's providing a lot of utility to her teammates rather than more to herself. Although she's providing a lot of support to her teammates, she hasn't really got any tankiness as of yet except for that Kindle Gem. So I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more tankiness, a little bit more resilience in the team fights when she gets to that point. So hopefully she starts building into a few more tanky items, maybe like Randwinds or a Locket of the Iron Solari. More items sort of to help her teammate, but but allow her to be as tanky as possible in team fights so that she can be able to tank fights and tank a lot of the damage that the people are sending out at her.
With her current build that she has, she's designed as a peeler for the Tristana, but she cannot be used as an initiator with that kind of setup. She needs more tankiness for that. With her build now, she's kind of reliant on Ryze and Xin Zhao to be the big initiators for the team fights here, or wait for the enemy team to initiate and counter-initiate on the ones going for the AD carry. It's a dangerous move here unless her team is willing to provide that initiation, not going for an earlier, heavier tanky build.
They do need, as a red team, do need to be very careful at the moment. They weren't all there right now. Sokimans isn't with them right at the moment. So with all the respect of Azaraki trying to land some bindings there, they are in a wrong situation to do that in, I think. They don't really want to start initiating a fight just yet until the rest of the team is there, which they all are now, so it's not too bad, but they do need to be careful when they do that. I have known and seen the purple team to be able to get themselves caught out when there is not all of them there, and that's not really what they want to be doing.
Well, we're going to see purple teams, or red teams in this case, very heavy poke build come into play here very shortly here. The poke kind of comps allow you to siege towers very, very easily. You not only clear the enemy minimum wave, but you do so much damage to the other team that they have to go back, or they'll be killed under the tower by a little bit of a dive from Nasus or Shen. And that kind of push is very difficult to push against between Needly Spears, Caitlyn, Peacemaker.
We can already see that Shen caught out Riven there. Nice flash there by Riven to escape from a two-man gank coming from Azaraki and the Shen, aka Kano there. And they are going to take this top turret because of it, just because of that creep wave that was pushing at the top there. But good play, that the fact that Riven just didn't let herself get killed in that regard.
Well, the red team, or the blue team is very low in health now. They're having to back up a little. Xin Zhao especially, almost killed by the ace in the hole for Caitlyn, is allowing this red team to, well, I thought they were going to push up both mid and top simultaneously, but it looks like they're backing off to go ahead and take a dragon while they can. It's completely uncontested. Kuro Makai just trying to jump through the trees and instead just having a little party over on the other side of the dragon pit.
So I would say there's no real reason why they couldn't do that either. They had a basically uncontested dragon, as you said. They're all back at their base. They're trying to defend it. They're believing that they're probably going to get pushed on any minute. But when they see that they're not, they're too late to realize that they're already pretty much at the dragon or at the Baron buff. And that's really what the kind of blue team need to really realize at the moment, is the fact they don't have much ward coverage at the moment. Red team seems to have a lot more ward coverage in the top at the moment, as well as not only just their own jungle, but the enemy's jungle as well. They've got 2 wards in the enemy jungle right now, as well as 1 in the river, whereas in the bot lane, you don't really see many wards there except for that one that in that passageway, but you do see a lot of the purple traps, Nidalee and Caitlyn traps dotted around the map as well. That's going to also provide a little bit of sight onto the enemy as well. Whereas for the blue team, they don't really have many wards anywhere. You can see some of the wards starting to dissipate now, and blue team only seem to have really 1, maybe 2 wards up. They've just put a ward on the Baron, but the only other ward they've got is in their own top jungle. They haven't really got a ward anywhere else in the bottom of their jungle or in the bottom of the other team's jungle. So they won't really suspect anything coming from beneath them, and I think that's going to cause some problems if the red team does utilize this attack strategy.
Both teams are in that strange position where they're trying to get a little bit of farm, but they need to stay together, because whoever wins this next fight is either getting an inhibitor or Baron, or even both. At this point, the ward coverage over Baron is pretty fantastic for either team, either in a position to take it, or rather, neither is in a position to take it until the other team is dealt with, because they both have such good vision. I fancy Red's vision a little bit more because they've got more early warning if they were to go there while the blue team was toward their base. But as is, both these teams are waiting for an opportunity to catch them out of position, or get a good initiate for a team fight, or get some split pushing done if you're Shen and you have teleport and, of course, your ultimate.
I will say right now, sorry, I don't want to mean to cut you right in there, that I did like the fact that Shen was basically split pushing for the lot of that. He left his team to defend the middle against a 5-man, which was pretty much what the blue team had at the time, and he's just basically just been pushing bot the entire time. Almost pretty much got an entire creep wave up to that first tower, except for when Tristana finally came down. Red team could have probably engaged on that, but they decided against it, probably because they didn't really feel they were prepared for it, or maybe they just didn't feel like they were entirely utilizing it that yet. But oh no, that's not good at all.
Yes, the ultimate from Shen, Stand United, not quite able to get him out of that situation. It was cancelled out of, and he got stuck there and just died there as a result. That made them have a 1-for-1 trade Leona for Shen, which wasn't a good trade for the red team. Shen much further ahead than the opposing Leona, but that did leave them quite pushed up in that bot lane. Continues to give them that map control advantage with their lanes pushed out.
I'd like to ask you a question. Actually, if you're wondering at the moment, guys, Siphoning Strike on the Nasus at the moment is currently 207, so he has been farming that very, very nicely right now. It's already outputting, let me just calculate it up for you, 50, 157, it's about sort of 364 point, about 364 damage a hit at the moment, and that's a really huge chunk for a very squishy champion. Something like, I don't know, maybe like Tristana or even Ribbon in some cases. A nice huge chunk of 300 damage is really something you don't want to be facing at the time.
Perhaps not quite as scary as a top Nasus's farm would be at this point, but certainly it's still a lot stronger during the early game, and the team advantage is here. Nice fight in the top jungle, leading to 2 dead on the blue team. This is going well into the favor, and further so for the red team. Riven may get caught out here, having to use all her escapes there, but
Red team just seemed like they were in the better position in that fight that they were in. They managed to catch the blue team basically off guard in some rights. They positioned themselves incredibly well so that the red or blue team were pretty much stuck in that bush, focused mostly in that small area. That means Lux could get an entire laser on at least 3 of their members. It got an ace in the hole on that Xin Zhao, and it does mean they can pick up pretty much a free inhibitor because of it.
Yes, just that any team fight won at this point means an inhibitor or a Baron or some equally important objective if you can win it heavily. It looks like they're going right to Baron as well. We'll see how this plays out for them. It's an interesting move. Blue will know about it, I believe. They do, well, they don't quite have perfect ward coverage there. Needley's been doing a job of using that Oracles to clear up the vision. Perhaps they're not even doing it, for they're just making a move to try to bait a fight here, and it may be working. A whole of blue team.
It may be working. Tristana seems to be going towards the bottom, more content and getting the red buff right now. Blue team wanting to see if they will come. The red team are prepared though. There we go. And we can just see how the fight unravels right now. You can see already that the red team in such a perfect position. They were all so prepared for the blue team to come straight over to them. They literally, even without realizing they were there, blue team just got themselves so badly caught up in that engagement that they just couldn't find themselves a way out, and it does mean a free red Baron because of it.
I can just imagine if this was a solo queue, the amount of hate Tristana would be getting right now from the rest of her teammates for being down in the bot there. Now, that wasn't necessarily her fault, but when you're going to go 4-man into the Baron buff through the bushes you don't have any vision at and the enemy team is missing, you either need to be all together or you need to move much more carefully than they did in that situation, warding the bushes before you move forward.
Absolutely, and it's just because of that you can see that they just lost 3 of their members, one of them being the jungler as well. Taking out that smite was a truly extraordinary move for the red team. So it means they could safely get Baron without pretty much any contest.
And they have the time and patience to go back and buy and get their mana back before attempting to make any action after this Baron. With that mid inhibitor already down from the last team fight, and gives them all the map control that they could ever want, to just sit around and let the minions do the work for a while, pick up some buffs, pick up your Baron, pick up your items, and then go push either top or bottom when you feel like it. Now, I would recommend in this situation, were I playing the red team, to go ahead for the bot lane, because if you take down that inhibitor, that sets up an even better advantage for future Baron pushes. If they're down having to defend bot, they're even further from Baron than if they're defending the top lane.
I have to entirely agree with you on that aspect. I think if they do take the bot lane first, another point that I would like to point out is the bot seems to be a little bit more pushed up and have a little bit more creeps than the top lane. The top lane seems to be pushing a bit better than the bot lane seems to be pushing a little bit better than the top lane. He says until Riven comes and takes the entirety of bot lane, so there wasn't really much point there. However, there is an interesting sort of Nidalee engagement in the jungle. Nidalee doing her Nyan Cat even impersonation as she strides away from any potential threats that Xin Zhao would provide.
Looking at the two AD carry builds, we see they're actually fairly similarly matched at this point in the game. 8-5 and 2 to 7-3 and 7. Caitlyn with just a few less CS, but not by a major amount.
Oh dear, and yet again you can see that the blue team get themselves a little bit too caught out. They didn't have any vision once again of anything in that bottom jungle. They got themselves a little bit too far out farming, and that will cause them to die again. They need vision in those jungles, and if they don't have vision, they shouldn't be even trying to go out and farm.
Rise stuck up with Shen. Shen with the 5-1-12 advantage here. That terror I was talking about earlier is just too tanky to be killed one-on-one at this point, and took up a free Rise because of it. In this case, they're pushing down the top inhibitor because they were closer to it, which is quite fine. Taking inhibitor is great. Doesn't matter which one. They're going to take some Nexus Towers and perhaps finish the game right here. They've got plenty of time to do that if they don't mess around and just kill the Nexus.
Riven is going to try and stop them, but she is a one-man army versus 5 of them. In fact, they are going to pick up an ace from that engagement because Riven and Leona just tried to throw themselves out there, try and stop the inevitable, but it's kind of sad as they will basically take this game. Very nicely done there by the red team, I think, as they did press every advantage they had and kept pressing it for a win.
And that's going to give us the final score of red team with 28 kills to 14 kills for the blue team. 38 minutes and a half in. 64.5k gold to the 47.1k of the blue team. 9-3 tower advantage. Dominating lead at the end there for the red team. It looked shaky through a couple parts in there, but they certainly came together in the late game for the win. What do you think was the biggest factor in red winning this match?
I think the main factor of this is the fact that the champions they picked were pretty much all very late game carries. You got Caitlyn, who utilizes a lot of more of a damage more towards the late game. Nasus' siphoning strike is a lot better towards the late game. Lux's damage and cooldowns are better in the late game. Just all around the board, their late game carries just seem to outrival better than the late game carries of the blue team. And other than that, they did manage to pull off a very good amount of early fights in the laning phase, and winning those early engagements as they did seemed to have just pushed them a little bit ahead, ready into the mid game, ready into the late game to start being able to push them back and go, right, we can do this.
Well, it looks like chat being the team we just watched, is yelling at us to determine the MVPs for this game. Who are your picks for the MVPs from this match?
MVPs of this match for today. I'm going to have to go with MVP for the match for the blue team. I'm probably going to go with the Tristana, and she made one wrong mistake at one point, but she seemed to be doing the right sort of thing. She had the right sort of build, and she seemed to be doing a lot of the damage for her team, which is what the AD carry is generally meant to be doing. However, for the red team, I am going to have to give MVP to I think we'll give it to Kano because his Shen seemed to be pretty much the main utility of the winning of most of those team fights. Because he won his lane so early on, it meant he was a bigger threat throughout the mid game. It helped his other carries get as fed as they did, and it just kept steamrolling from there.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you on both of those counts there. As much as I do not look for MVPs based on what the score is, Shen was a dominant force throughout the entire map through most of the game, and he really changed a lot of these team fights to a great advantage for the red team, and that let them get far ahead and have the great advantage there. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We are going to continue shortly, I believe. We're going to take a quick short break here so I can have some water, and we'll join you again in just a moment. In the meantime, please enjoy silence.